Hi, Heather here from Creative Kiwi. Join me as I show how to stitch our endless rings table runner. A few months ago now, I asked in the group what sort of placemat or table runner everyone would like, and by far, the main idea was a design that could be made longer or wider as you like. So I've created this endless rings design, which I think covers both. So to get full versatility, we've got a total of 9 different blocks. And basically, if you wanted the design wider, you would repeat these blocks. If you wanted it longer, you would repeat these blocks. Now, the block's obviously loosely based on the wedding ring block. So there's lots of different colorways you could do in different ways. You can place your fabrics to have different patterns. Now, it's completely reversible. I did just use one fabric on the back. I found that easier. But if you wanted to, you could repeat the different colorways if you liked. Now, for those who know me, I like tone on tone. So here's just a runner I made, which was just 2 wide by 3 long. Again, I like the tone on tone. It certainly shows off the quilting. And then you've got one table runner, but 2 completely different colorways. Now, it's all loosely based on this one block, basically. So you've got a black fabric, which is the frame, and you've got an inner center, and you've got the 4 different sides. Now, when I was making, I guess I'm going to call it the rainbow sample, I was using pretty much one fabric for each block. So you can see the top left there's green. It was only halfway through I thought, you know what, you could do a lot more here. So I have made the file that you can have your center in 4 different colors. So I thought I'd start this video with doing the coaster pattern first. That way, if you want to use different fabrics in your runner, you'll see the only difference is basically there's an extra additional trimming step for the fabrics compared to my actual step-by-step video. So we always use 2 layers of fabric type water-soluble stabilizer, and I pin at the edges to ensure there's no movement in the hoop. So all the files start the same. You have the placement line on the stabilizer. You place your batting over that placement line and you stitch the next colour to attach. Now just use a neutral colour thread. I use black so you can see it. And then we stitch around twice so you get a nice cutting edge. Now for this one, I'm just skipping through the cutting away of the batting and adding the fabrics. I show it in detail further on. But basically you cut away the batting, you put your baking fabric on the back, and then you add your front fabric. And so go into more detail next. This I just really wanted to show the fabric placement. And you can see we just have the inner fabric placement guidelines get stitched onto that black frame fabric. Now the next bit, you can cut away the inner pieces if you like. I did show it on the rainbow, but you know what? In the end, I just added my fabric on top. It just saved a step of cutting away all that fabric. If you're using cotton fabrics, it's not making a hugely bulky design. Once you've attached those fabrics, there is just a quilting step there that I've done in black. You can choose to skip it if you prefer. The next step, again, I'm just summarising for this one. I've added my backing fabric on the back of the hoop with the right side of the fabric out, and I'm just going to put my centre fabric. And so I'm going to use one fabric for the centre here. Again, it will stitch around twice just to give you a nice cutting edge. I'm just going to clip away that excess fabric in the centre. To place my 4 different fabrics. Now, this is where please have your instructions handy because it gives you the sequences. For this one, I just used 2 greens and 2 reds, but you can see you could obviously make, lots of different patterns. You could have 4 different colours doing lots of different things. We're just attaching those pieces. And this is the bit I just wanted to show, is that you just need to trim away those inner fabric pieces so you can do the quilting. That's what's not shown in the next step-by-step videos. So the last piece on the block before we cut away all the fabrics is just the inner quilting. And again, you can skip that if you prefer. Now, by the magic of video, I've cut away all the fabric on the back and the front, and it's looking a lot better. Then basically you're just going to put matching bobbin thread in the bobbin, and you're going to go off and it's going to zigzag around that design and complete the satin stitching. So now I'll go into more detail on the rainbow design. So you stitch your outline onto the stabilizer, add your batting and attach. Then you cut away the excess batting. Now I'm just going to show this first block in detail. Each segment does exactly the same. So you're cutting away the batting, then you're placing your fabrics. So I do the back first. Now I've just got white, but if you did use a pattern, you make sure that you've got right side upwards, facing outwards, because that's the back, what you will see of the placemat. So you tape the fabric on the back of the hoop, and then you're going to do the same for the front. So at your machine, you're going to attach that first frame fabric, and then it's going to do the little quilting in the corners, which you can skip if you prefer. Now, I show here how you can cut away the excess fabric in the centre if you like. You know what? I didn't bother going forward. You're just going to add an extra piece of fabric, and it really is not going to cause any concern to your machine, and it just cuts a step out basically. The next step is just to add your fabric. So on my reverse side, I just used the one piece throughout, and you've got right side facing up. And for this piece, I also just used one piece of fabric. You can use multiple if you prefer. So this is where you need to keep your instructions handy. The next colour is always going to be the centre. If you were adding multiple colours, you would trim at that point. Then you would add your next fabric and trim, and then your next fabric and trim, just like the coaster video. The final piece is just the quilting, the inner quilting, which again, if you prefer, if you've got a really pretty fabric, you can skip if you prefer. Now we're just going to trim away all that excess fabric. And we're going to do that in the front and the back of the design. Back to the machine and put your matching bobbin thread into the bobbin, and then we do a zigzag around the raw edges and the satin stitch edge. So we're just going to cut away the excess stabilizer. With the satin stitch edges, you cut quite close. With the raw edges, you cut as close as you can to that stitch line. These bits are going to be used for joining later, so the closer you get, the better. Now you're going to load file B, and you're going to do the same steps. You're going to do your stabilizer, your batting, put your fabrics on the front and back, and then you're going to cut away your excess fabrics and do the zigzag before the join. Now this is all shown in the instructions. Now we're going to do our first join. So you can see you've got the satin stitch edges and you've got these raw edges. Now it's the raw edges that we're going to join our design to. And you can see the zigzag has stopped there. So that's where you're going to place your piece, and you're going to place stitch line on the stitch line. So there's just that slight overlap. And you're just going to tape in place. As I say, where the zigzag stops is where the edge of the second block is. So at the machine, you just either slow your machine down or start or stop as you like. But basically, the machine's just going to do a zigzag across that bottom edge that will join both pieces. So once it's done, just check that it has in fact covered both pieces. And when you're happy with the join, just carry on and complete the satin stitch edge. So I do have matching bobbin thread in the machine at this point. Now this is the last time I'll show this part again. It's just you're going to remove the stabilizer and cut close to the satin stitch edge, but as close as you can to the raw edges. This really helps you with your joining, helps you can see, and it just, as I say, makes it easier. Then you're back on and you've stitched out block C, following all the instructions as before, up to the zigzag before the join. And again, same process as before. You're going to put your completed parts against the raw edges. So raw or stitch line upon stitch line, and just matching where that zigzag stops. Then back to your machine, and we're going to do that joining stitch. We'll just do a quick check to make sure that it's covered. And then back to finish off the satin stitch edge. Okay, so I've stitched file D, and now I'm just going to do that join again. Stitch line upon stitch line. Then back to the machine for the joining stitch. And then we complete the satin stitch. Now we're on file E. We've stitched it out, and we're going to do the next line of joining. Again, now we're just joining on two sides here. Same idea though, you're just going to match up the raw edges, stitch line upon stitch line. Take out the machine. Now what I like to do here is I go down to about halfway, and then I stop my machine, and I just make sure that it's going to be correct for the second part of the join. Check that it's okay. Then we're on to the satin stitch. Now we're on file F, and we're going to do the join for this one, which is basically the same as last time, where you're joining on two sides. So again, you're just lining up stitch line upon stitch line. Back to the machine, and again start and stop as you like. As you can see, I do again just stop halfway through, and just make sure everything's lined up. You're happy with the join, then we're back onto the satin stitch. Here we go. We're just going to make sure we line the right edge up there. Same process before, stitch line upon stitch line. Now this join's just one small one along the bottom. And once you're happy with it, go ahead and complete that second stitch. Now I didn't record it, so there you go, it's the finished piece. Now we've stitched out file H. This is one that's going to be joined on two sides. And again, I'm sure you don't really need me for this one, but start and stop as you like. I do the halfway. And when you're happy with the join, go off and finish that satin stitch edge. And again, I didn't get the video. I forgot to press play. Right, file I. Now, this, no matter what variation you'll do, this will always be the last file you do, which is the full coaster size. Again, same joining as before. And you'll be a pro at them by this one. Start and stop as you like, even if it's the 12th time you've done it. Check your join, make sure that it's covered. Then off to your final satin stitch. I guess the thing here is, I mean, that's the whole 9 blocks. You don't have to stitch all 9. You can do many variations just based on how big you want to make your finished design. So thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see what you make with the design.